Hi, buddy. Hi, friends. My name is Jake. Welcome to Canadian Cutting Edge. This is Bandit. How you doing, buddy? Did you have a good day this morning? Yeah, so far pretty good. We're looking at a fixed blade today, as you saw in the thumbnail. This is a TUNAFIRE branded fixed blade. I quite like how it looks. Check that out. We've got a hollow grind, Asian Tanto tip, micarta handle scales with mosaic pins, a little bit of a lanyard there. It's a pretty good knife. It was sharpened quite poorly from the factory, but it's a pretty good knife. The model number is GT0157, I believe, and the price and everything is on the screen, and I'll also mention it a little bit later in the video. I really liked the handle on it. It looked great in the pictures. I had it delivered to Canada, and now TUNAFIRE on AliExpress no longer ships to Canada. That's probably because they mailed some folding knives to Canadians that got confiscated by the Canada Border Services Agency, and people demand their money back, and then the seller says, I'm stopping losing all this money. I just won't ship to Canada anymore. So if you are a Canadian, you're going to have that shipped to the US and then have it shipped to you if you want one, unfortunately. So it hasn't been that long. I just got this a month and a half ago. Maybe it's only a month ago. And I haven't done fixed blades much lately, so let's take a look at this thing. Do you want to check it out? No, you want a nap. Stay tuned. Okay, while you're enjoying how that looks, let me show you the sheath. This is, a Kydex equivalent, I'm sure. Some good things about this sheath. They've got a really nice push spot right there for the thumb, so that when the knife is in there, when you want to go take it out, that's a perfect spot to push off of and pull the knife out. In this case, the sheath went flying, but you know what I mean. So that's good. A lot of knives, even knives made in the United States aren't always made that well on the sheath right there. There's a drain hole right there on the bottom. We've got a very unique backside to this thing. So we've got a belt loop, so it's just a slide over belt loop. I believe this part's probably an ABS plastic, and that works really fine to get on. It's not that hard to get it back off the belt. Your 1.5-inch belts easily fit in there. Let's see, what do we have here? 2 inches. We've got over 2 inches. Almost 2.25 inches of space here. So it's going to fit pretty much any belt system. The genius is right here. So you could take this off and just mount it here and wear it a really low scout style if you want. But this is designed to slide, as you see. So you can wear it scout style like that if you want to. Or better yet, I figured this out by accident. I was wearing it, and then I went to sit down, and you know how very often us bigger guys, when we're wearing a knife and we go to sit down, the handle just jabs into our, big love handle there. Clickety-click, and it's sideways. And it's so comfortable when you're sitting down and you stand back up again. Voila. All you have to do is tension this screw just the right amount so that it's not too loose and not too tight for what you want to do. So, genius. I've never seen this before. I'm sure somebody's made it before. I just don't know who. So, probably some knife designer from the United States or Canada or something, designed a system like this, and it's been copied, but this is my first time seeing it, and it's genius. It really is. It's a good sheath. The retention's very good. There's no looseness in there. It's a good sheath. Not great sheath, but it's a good sheath. The knife itself. It comes with a paracord lanyard tied on it. No big deal. I don't even know if this black with the white reflective marks on there or that thread is all that attractive for this, but that's what comes with it. No big deal. What's really nice is this micarta. And it just looks really, really good to me. I'll show you some close-up shots of the micarta and the mosaic pins. It's a very fine mosaic pin. There's a lot of little tubes of copper and brass and steel in there that they've made to design those pins, and good job. It does mean that the handle scales do not come off, so there's that. For those of you who like to remove your handle scales, on this knife you can't do that. Lanyard tube, I forgot to mention for the lanyard, and the placement for it is very good. The handle itself, you've got a finger choil, and then you got a bit of a swell in the middle, and then it comes back a little bit. So for my size hands, it's ideal. You know, a saber grip, fist grip, even reverse grip, quite comfortable. Even a reverse pull grip works really well. So there you go. It's not a perfectly done handle, but it's very well done. This side here, you can see that they didn't quite sand it enough on the close-up shot, but that's a very, very minor thing. That's so easy to fix on my own. This side, nice, very nicely done right there. The blade tang is slightly exposed, and the edges are rounded off, very comfortable. We've got some jimping there. It's a fairly smooth jimping. I would like it to be a little bit more aggressive than it is, but not bad. And I would like the jimping to come a little bit further up into the blade section and not just in the handle section, because I often have my thumb up here, you know, in either hand. So there's that. Tiny bit of a guard, nice. There's a sharpener's choil. It's a little bit bigger than I'd like it to be. It looks a little bit off on this knife for how large it is. Not a problem though. Here you can see it's a drop point a little bit, and then, you know, an Asian tanto. And it did not come with this beautiful mirror edge. I did that. It was actually sharpened quite poorly, and so it took me a while to sharpen it, which means I spent a fair bit of time with it on my sharpening rig, and it did feel like a hard steel. So it is likely D2. It feels like it was at a 60, 61 on the Rockwell hardness, and just experience tells me that. Bit of a swedge here, and the flat comes all the way up to there. So it's a thick tip, very strong. And I did puncture a number of things, and I, jabbed it into hardwood several times. Yeah, this is a very strong tipped knife. It is a bit thick, so some things you're going to need excessive force to get it started, to get through things, because of how durable, how thick and tough they made this tip. I do like this Asian tanto style tip. It makes the blade useful up here more so than Western tantos, with a really angular look, at least in my opinion. And then the transition here is easy to smooth out. I did sharpen the tip and this part separately, mounted on my rig in separate ways. I have a video on how to sharpen tantos, but it looks like it's ready to just smooth out into a belly. Not a big deal. Hollow grind here, flat here. Nice. It's thick behind the grind. And I'll tell you all the measurements and the specs for that later on. It says TUNAFIRE right there, not too large, so I don't really mind the branding that they've done on this knife, especially since the letters are hollow and everything, or just outlined. The D2, I wouldn't mind if it was smaller. I don't really need that so big, but no big deal. So it looks good. Let's give all the specs and measurements and that kind of stuff now. The sharpness from the factory was 170 best, so slightly below the average for the knives that I review. The cutting edge length, measured just sort of straight across from tip to the heel of the blade, 97.5 millimeters, which is 3.84 inches. Blade length, tip to the closest spot on the handle, 104.1 millimeters, 4.1 inches. The thickness of the blade, 4.09 millimeters, 0.161 of an inch. It's well over an eighth of an inch. The blade depth, its biggest actually, I don't know why, but right where this swedge ends, that's where I got the biggest measurement. That was a tiny bit less, maybe because they sharpened it down a little bit. 29.9 millimeters, 1.18 inches. How thick was it behind the grind on this straight section? It was 0.78 millimeters, 31 thousandths of an inch. And up here, it was pretty close. It was 31.5 thousandths of an inch. So 0.8 millimeters up here and 0.78 here. So not great. Not super terrible, but not great. The grind angles. Now here's the mess. Now I got a huge set of notes here. On the straight section, 18.7 degrees to 17.6 degrees. So not bad. Unfortunately, that's the best set of numbers I have for you. This side, it started at 28.7 and it went down to 27.6, but then back up to 29 degrees here. On the tip, on this side, it started off at 30.2 and ended at 24.1 and 25.4. So it was variable on this short length. And on this side, it started at 25.7, 23.3, and 22.4. I don't usually do that many measurements, but I just noticed that it was actually wavy even on this short section. So yeah, they didn't sharpen it all that well. I have it now at 18 degrees per side. And yes, my mirror finish is so easy to get clouded up. It is, I'm sure it's D2 steel also, just because of the way my mirror edge polished up. It doesn't keep that mirror edge super well. You know, it's not a high chromium steel. Oh, I'm talking about measurements. Handle. The handle length, 115.8 millimeters, which is 4.56 inches. The thickness of the handle, 18 millimeters, 0.71 inches. Fills the hand very well without being too thick. I like it. The handle depth, the biggest spot was this swell right here, 28.7 millimeters, 1.13 inches. The grip in here, it's about 10 centimeters, 4 inches, actually a little over both of those numbers. And the total length of the knife, oh, I did it again, 219.9 millimeters. The inches is on the screen, but almost 8 5/8, not quite 8 5/8 long. So it's not a super large knife at all. It's, if you want to carry a fixed blade, I think this is a really good size to carry. I often carry a knife that's a little bit smaller than this, but this size can get a lot of jobs done. Oh, the weights. 159 grams, 5.55 ounces. With the sheath, it's 219 grams, 7.7 ounces. So there you go. Oh, the price isn't on my list right here. The price is on the screen right now, how much it costs. And AliExpress does not add any shipping cost. They just ship it for free. And I quite like it. Do I recommend this knife? If you don't mind how thick it is behind the grind, because I seriously doubt any of them will come thinner behind the grind than this. How well does it cut? Well, it cut terribly from the factory, but it cuts quite well now that I've sharpened it to 18 degrees per side. It's got so much substance behind the grind that 18 degrees isn't too shallow. D2 can handle that. I wouldn't want to do much less than that, but some guys might want to do it at 20 degrees per side. It's quite good. It cuts well. I can even do delicate work with it if I want to. It's got a very strong tip. Thick enough blade without being over thick. Smooth, rounded handle, and yet it's micarta, so it's got that micarta grippiness. It's a little bit slicker than some micarta. I think they've polished it quite a fair bit. And it's got a nice look to it. TUNAFIRE has got, I think, 4 different knives. They use the same color micarta and I think the same mosaic pins and different blade shapes, well, different handle shapes as well. And so if there's a different shape that you're looking for, they've got several to choose from. Do I recommend their knives? I think their price is pretty good. And yeah, I recommend it with the caveats of if you don't mind how thin that is. It is a hollow grind, which means I'll be able to sharpen it a few times before it starts getting really thick behind the grind. So that's a good thing. And it's a good looking knife. The sheath is the genius part. I suspect the other sheaths will have the same mechanism. And you know, that's actually quite nice. I really like that. It's almost worth it just for this mechanism. Seeing how simple that is, you can possibly make your own. If you do any of your own Kydex work, this isn't all that hard to make. I usually like, you know, my biggest preference is a leather dangle sheath, but this sheath, not bad. It's fairly well made. Well, one con, these screws that they used, the back side or the nut side, whatever you want to call it, is totally smooth. So it's hard to tighten these up if you want to tighten them up any more than they are, because it's hard to get anything behind it, especially back here on this one. It's hard to get anything behind there to put pressure on it so that when you tighten it, to get it just right. And this one is near impossible to get behind. So there's that consideration as well. So there you go. The TUNAFIRE GT0157. Thanks for watching my video. Thanks for liking, sharing, commenting, and subscribing. And remember, friends, cut towards your chum, not your thumb.